Dear students, have a good day. So let's learn something in physics today. Physics, I am going to teach mechanics. In physics, mechanics. So this is a very elementary and the most important topic in learning physics. So when you are preparing for your competitive examinations like NEET and JEE, these chapters will support you and it will enhance you to do better in your examinations, because these are the very basic fundamentals throughout your physics. Whatever you learn in mechanics will help you throughout all other chapters which you are dealing with. In mechanics, in general, how you are going to say about mechanics? What you are going to say about mechanics? Mechanics, it's a branch of physics that deals with the conditions of rest or motions of bodies surrounding us. So if you want to study something about your body which is at rest or at motion, you need some certain conditions to study about that. And that particular area, what we call it as mechanics. So in mechanics, we have three different areas. So that is being classified as, one is statics, the other is kinematics, and the other one is dynamics. So this is for just for your information for 1 or 2 minutes. Statics will always deal with objects which are at rest. Objects at rest, which means whenever there is a change in the time factor, these objects are not going to move at all. It does not change its position with respect to time. Even when some external forces are acting on this body, still the object remains at rest. So the branch of study of this is called as statics. So mechanics is a branch of physics and statics is a branch of mechanics which deal with object at rest. And kinematics, it deals with objects which are at motion. Objects at motion. And we are not going to bother about the reason for the motion of the objects. So that deals with kinematics. So we are not considering the reason for the motion of the object. This branch of mechanics, you call it as kinematics. And dynamics, again, the objects are at motion and we are going to consider the reason for the motion of the object. We are going to consider the reason for the motion of the objects. Considering the reason. So how we can do that? So dynamics, all your laws of motion, because the major factor is force. Force is going to act on a particular object for make its position to change from one place to another. Only then you call it as the body is in motion. So in mechanics we have statics, kinematics and dynamics. These are the three different areas we are going to talk about. And in particular, initially in the coming chapter we are going to deal with kinematics followed by dynamics. In kinematics, we need two things that you should learn before getting into the chapter. One is, how will you define rest and motion? These are the two important parameters. How will you define rest and motion? It is as simple as that. When you say the object is at rest, when the object does not change its position with respect to time and according to the surroundings. So if the object, for example, a book is placed on this table and this is at rest forever. This is at rest forever. So even when there is a time change, when time is increasing 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, and this object is not going to change its position where it is being kept, that you define it as rest. Suppose if an object changes its position, for example, if you are just kicking a ball and the ball from this position, it's moving to this position, you call the object is in motion, because the object moves from the initial position, then it reaches some final position, and at this factor there is a change of time. So with respect to time, if the object does not change its position, you call the object is at rest. And with respect to time, if the object changes its position from initial to final, then you call it as the object is in motion. Right? And with rest and motion, we have to study, they are always the relative terms. You call them as relative terms. Why you call them as relative terms? Because without comparing rest and motion, we are not going to learn the complete kinematics. Because, for example, I am giving you one example. Consider a moving train. And suppose one passenger is sitting here and another fellow passenger is sitting here. When we compare these two passengers, they are sitting, which means they are both at rest. But the train is in motion. They are at rest. But when you compare the objects outside the train, with respect to these objects which are at rest outside the train, they are in motion. When you say the same person, he is at rest at one particular instant, and another venture, comparing to these trees, they are in motion. Because of this, I am saying they are the relative terms, which means relative rest and relative motion. We can compare both relative rest and relative motion. Why I am saying is that if you take any object, to say the object is at rest or at motion, we need frame of reference, which means I need one particular point to compare and say whether the object here it is in rest or in motion. But in our universe, since the whole earth is in motion, we can't exactly say there is an absolute place of reference to define an object whether it is in rest or in motion. So there is no terms like saying absolute rest. And if there is no absolute rest, and I can also say there is no absolute motion, because the earth that itself is in motion, which means the earth is revolving around the sun and the whole solar system is in motion in the Milky Way galaxy, and the whole Milky Way galaxy is also in motion. We can't predict and say one particular point as a reference point to explain whether the object is at rest or in motion. So because of that, I can say there is no absolute rest and absolute motion. With respect to the objects surrounding us, I can only say there are terms like relative rest and relative motion. So any physics students who are learning things towards their competitive exams, they should be well aware of these terms when they are using it in the examination point of view. Right. Next, here comes another one topic called point object. Every place you can see point object. How? Before point object definition, I can tell you the examples. I can say earth is my point object. I can say earth as an example for point object. Next, I can say the moving train as a point object. Why? Because the definition of the point object says if the object changes its position for some longer distance compared to the size of the object, then you define that object as point object. For example, the earth is revolving around the sun. The motion of the distance traveled by the earth is much larger than the size of the earth. Because of that, I am saying this earth is the point object. And take this train, the length of the train, the size of the train is much greater when it travels hundreds of miles. That's the length is very much greater compared to the size of the train. I can term this term as point object. So any object that you are considering in mechanics, let us consider that object as the point object. Right? Okay. Now, so we are dealing with the rest, motion and point object. Now, to determine the position of an object where it is located, I need to know about frames of reference. That is, I need to know about my coordinate system. To locate any object's position, the coordinate system is very, very important. Here, I can take this coordinate system into three areas like one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional. So it is as simple as that. First, if an object is moving in a straight line, that is, the object from the origin, from here, so it moves, it reaches point P1, then it reaches point P2. The distance it covers is x1, here it is x2, and it is moving in the x direction. According to my coordinate condition, so in coordinates I have x coordinate, y coordinate and z coordinate. So the object's position is located only in the x direction and the change of the position is also only in the x direction. Then I can say the object is moving in one dimensional, and this type of motion you call it as rectilinear or linear motion. The same way, suppose in two-dimensional, the coordinates are explained with 2 points, that is x and y axis. An object is here, and after certain point of time, the object changes its position and moves to this final position. When it is moving to the final position, I can locate this point as my x1, y1 with respect to my origin O, and here the position at the final position object reached is x2 minus, y2. So these are the two positions, the initial and the final, where I can locate in my coordinate system in the xy plane, and this I call it as two-dimensional motion. The examples of two-dimensional motion, I can say the earth revolving around the sun. Is my two-dimensional example, and a car moving in a road in a zigzag manner, you call it as two-dimensional motion. Whereas here, an object falling from a certain height towards the earth, this is one-dimensional motion, because only one dimension is, only one axis is represented. And a moving train, moving on a straight track, this you can explain it in one-dimensional. And by the time you can understand what could be the three-dimensional. In three-dimensional, you can locate the position of an object by having these three coordinates, which is x1, y1, z1. This is the position. And here, after reaching a certain point of time, this object reaches to x2, y2, z2. This is my final position. This is a three-dimensional. For example, you can see a flight moving, right? A flight moving over here, right? In a space, the location of the initial position, you can only locate it in three-dimensional. You need coordinates x, y and z. And after a certain period of time, it changes its position. It reaches a point after a certain time, x2, y2, z2. And again, these are the coordinates which you need to represent. You can also note a flying kite, right, in a space. These also you can locate using this coordinate system. So in mechanics, to locate the position of any objects in space or in a plane or in a straight line, you need this coordinate system, that you can put it as one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional, right? Okay. Now, after learning these dimensions, one dimension, two dimension and three dimension, you are going to now consider the path where the object is in moving. For example, first I am taking distance. Distance is the actual path covered from the initial position to the final position, I can say, or the length traversed by the object from the initial position to the final position, I can say. The total length traveled. For example, right, so here is my point here, and I am walking towards some other point to reach my destination over here B. So A and B, right? What are the things I am traveling via here, right? Here is one point C, right? This is my home. So far, this is my office, right? And this is my home. I have to reach. So this is my shopping, right? Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm traveling this direction and I'm moving to this direction. So how I will calculate my distance traveled? The path which I traveled is the distance, right? So from here to here and here to here. So the length of this AB length is equal to AC plus CB. This is the distance covered. This is the distance covered. So distance covered, you need not worry about only the unidirectional. It is the total path which I am traveling. Because of that, I can say this distance is a scalar quantity. This distance is a scalar quantity, which means it does not speak about direction. It has only magnitude. Alright. So distance is always represented in meters. So meters, centimeters, kilometers. Right. Next, I am speaking about distance. Followed by distance, the next term which you should understand is displacement. Again, displacement is change of the position of the object, which means object is here, after some time it moves over here, right? Change of the position of the object from A to B, but in a fixed direction. So direction comes into play here, in a fixed direction. So this is the only difference in distance and displacement. So even if you travel this path over here, this could be your distance traveled, and whereas your displacement is the point A to B in a fixed direction, and the shortest length could be your displacement. So AB, the whole length traveled by you, is distance and displacement. So when you compare distance and displacement, sometimes distance can also be equal to displacement. And the rare cases, distance is always greater than displacement. Greater than displacement. And displacement, I can refer displacement as positive, negative and zero. Whereas distance, it is of only positive quantity and zero. Distance cannot be negative. How I am saying that distance is positive, negative and zero? So the displacement, so when you are moving in this direction, it could be positive. When again you are retracing its path and moving up to here, it could be negative. And if you are moving over here, right, and again traveling the same path and coming over here, then the displacement of the thing will be equal to zero. For example, in a circle, you are starting here and moving here and reaches the same point, then the displacement will be equal to zero. But the displacement cannot, displacement can be positive, negative and zero, and the distance cannot be negative. It could be only positive and zero. And because of this fixed direction, the change of position of an object from the initial position to the final position in a fixed direction, you call it as displacement, and it is an vector quantity. It is an vector quantity, which means this has both magnitude and direction. Magnitude and direction, right? So distance and displacement, right? Next we can go on to simpler terms, right? These are the very fundamental essentials that though you had learned for several times, just have a look over it. Then speed. How I can define speed? Simply everybody will say speed is distance traveled by time taken. It is the rate of change of position with respect to time in any direction. You call it as speed. That speed is nothing but that is distance traveled by time taken. The rate of change of the position from one point to another with respect to time in any direction. You call that position change as distance traveled and change of time as time taken. Distance traveled is in meter, time taken in second, that is meter second inverse. So the speed is a scalar quantity because we have to calculate the distance traveled. If it is a distance traveled, it is a scalar quantity and it is of any direction. Right, and this speed is classified into, for your examination point of view, this classification, when you read about speed, immediately it should come to your mind what are the other parameters. So speed is classified like, one is uniform speed, the second is variable speed, the third is average speed, and the fourth is instantaneous speed. What is uniform speed? An object which starts traveling, if it covers equal distance in equal interval of time, you call that speed as uniform speed. For example, if an object travels in 1 hour 50 km, in 2 hours, it should travel 100 km. This type of speed, you call it as distance covered 50 km, hours taken 1 hour. Distance covered 100 km, hours taken 2 hours. This you call it as uniform speed. Whereas variable speed is defined as if the object covers unequal distances in equal amount of time. Unequal distance in equal amount of time, or vice versa, right? Equal distances in unequal interval of time, you call that speed as variable speed. That is unequal distance in equal interval of time, Average speed, for an object moving in a variable speed, only then you can calculate your average speed, because variable speed you have different distances covered and sometimes the time taken is also different. We have to calculate the total distance covered and the total time taken, which means average speed, if for an object moving with the variable speed, it is the total distance covered by total time taken. This is your, which means the position, so final position x2 minus initial position x1, time taken t2 minus t1 will give your average speed. Instantaneous speed. How will you define instantaneous speed? An object is in motion. This object is moving here, right? At any particular point of time, or at any particular position, I want to denote my speed, which you call it as instantaneous speed, which means my limiting factor, right, at any small interval of time, limit del t tends to 0, I have to calculate my speed. Del x is the change in the distance divided by change in the time, which is equal to dx by dt. So this is my instantaneous speed. The instantaneous speed is that the average speed, when I am limiting it to the time factor, reducing it to 0, at that time the speed occurred, you call it as dx by dt. Instantaneous speed, dx by dt. It is the first derivative of the position. Instantaneous speed is the first order derivative of the position. So in examination point of view, so sometimes you can occur sums here in uniform motion. So that is a uniform speed, you will get uniform motion with equal interval of time, and sums you can occur in average speed. In average speed, so some of the sums appearing here, like So this, you know the speed formula, right? I'm putting its speed as v and time as distance covered as s and time taken as t. For example, an car moving, the moving car, right? This moving car, so it's moving in the x direction. It reaches position s1, s2, s3 at various speeds like v1, v2, v3, right? So I like to calculate my average speed. I like to calculate my average speed. Average speed is nothing but distance traveled by time taken, which means the total distance, right, which is s1 plus s2 plus s3 divided by, and the time taken. Time taken I can calculate from here, t equal to distance traveled by speed, s by v. So my t1 for traveling s1 distance will be s1 by v1 plus s2 by v2 plus s3 by v3. So this is my average speed that I can calculate for a car moving in this x direction, covering various distances with various speeds. In some cases, if the speed is varying and the car covers equal distances, I can take like special cases, right? If s1 equal to s2 equal to s and it covers v1 with, it moves with v1 and v2 speed, my formula I can write it as s1, instead of s1 I am writing s plus s divided by, here s1 s2 s of 1 by v1 plus 1 by v2. This is 2s divided by s of v2 plus v1 divided by v1 v2, right? This is equal to 2 into v1 v2 divided by v1 plus v2. So I can calculate average speed when this distance traveled are equal and the speed is varying. I can calculate my speed, average speed. And the similar fashion I can also calculate here the same thing. So instead of this distance, if they are giving me time, the car is traveling, like say it travels v1 speed and time taken is t1, v2 speed and time taken is t2 and it is t3. Now I like to calculate my average speed. My average speed is then what? Average speed. So distance equal to, it is distance by time. Average speed I should get distance here and here time. My distance is speed into time, which is v1 t1 plus v2 t2 plus v3 t3 and up to your calculations. Then in the denominator it is time taken. So I can write my time taken as t1 plus t2 plus t3. So this is my average speed calculation for varying time and varying speed, right? In the first order derivative, simply if an equation is given, if you differentiate once, you will get the instantaneous speed, right? Okay. Next, now I am going to move on to velocity. So velocity. Velocity. How we can define velocity? Velocity is defined as the rate of change of position with respect to time in the fixed direction. Again, it is a change of position, but in the fixed direction. If it is in the fixed direction, then I can call this velocity as displacement by time taken. Displacement by time taken. What is this displacement? Displacement by time taken. Displacement is in meter. Time taken is years. Again, it is meter second inverse. Since displacement, this velocity is an vector quantity. Velocity is an vector quantity. And even if you want to represent this in dimensional form, it is m0. This meter is in length L and second time inverse. This is your dimensional unit for velocity. Here in velocity, again what you have to remember from this learning is that similar to speed, you also have these four different types like uniform velocity. Uniform velocity. So here again it is variable velocity, and again you have average velocity and instantaneous velocity. Right? So uniform velocity. If an object moving with velocity, if it covers equal displacements in equal interval of time, in that fixed direction, you call it as uniform velocity. Equal displacements in equal interval of time. Right? So variable velocity again. So variable velocity, the important parameter. So variable velocity, if there is a change in the speed, then there is a change in the velocity. And next, for an object moving, if there is a change in the direction, there is change in the velocity. Or if both the speed and direction changes, then there is a change in the velocity. Only then you will get the variable velocity. For an object moving with certain direction, and after certain time it moves in this direction, then again here and again here, there is a change in the velocity, and the velocity which occurs here, that is a variable velocity, because the direction is changing. If the direction is changing, there is a change in the speed may also occur, and that same speed can also occur and direction can also occur. Then you call it as variable velocity. And average velocity for an object moving with variable velocity. If you want to calculate the average velocity, it is the total distances traveled, that is the displacements covered in each and every segment. You have to put together all the things, that is x2 minus of x1 final minus initial position by t2 minus of t1, which is equal to this difference del x by del t, which could be your average velocity. Now your previous learning will help you to understand what is instantaneous. Instantaneous means I have to denote a moving object's velocity at any point of time, at any instant or at any position. So for example, t equal to 3 seconds, what is my instantaneous velocity? At that time, what I am getting is instantaneous velocity. If an object has x equal to 3.5 meter, I have to calculate my velocity. That is my instantaneous, which means the limit del t, it is the limiting factor going to 0, del x by del t, which is equal to dx by dt. So again, this instantaneous velocity is the first order derivative of the position, right? The objects, when it is moving, it changes the position with respect to the time, and in a direction, if you want to calculate in this particular direction, I want to calculate my x2 minus of x1 by t2 minus t1 will give my del x by del t, right? Del x by del t, and this is equal to dx by dt, which is the first order derivative of the position. So this is my velocity. Alright, so we have been calculating distance, displacement, speed and velocity. So based upon this, we will discuss questions after completing acceleration and acceleration due to gravity of a free falling body. We will discuss that in the next video. Kindly subscribe over this if you are interested, and if you need any more comments or any suggestions to get, please put it up so that we will work towards for your betterment and for your better learning. Thanks for watching. Thank you.